Fulton County, Atlanta serves as a hub of vast corporate wealth, home to logistics empires that move billions of dollars in freight every year. All of that corporate power ultimately answers to the rigid, wood-paneled walls of the local courthouse. Inside Courtroom 5E, the disparity between the two sides was stark. Callista Hallow, the CEO of Hallow Freight Systems, sat flanked by a legion of high-priced attorneys and stacks of color-coded binders. Across the aisle, Zane stood alone, armed with nothing but a single yellow legal pad. Callista had systematically dismantled Zane's ability to fight back. She locked their joint accounts, drained his legal funding, and painted him as unstable, while he represented himself. She had built a sophisticated legal trap, but she overlooked a critical vulnerability in her own IT setup. For her own convenience, Callista routed all of her personal and corporate device backups to a single shared network, a server rack in the basement. Zane arrived to detonate a corporate bomb on the public record, weaponizing that careless data management to expose the fraud Callista thought she had buried. The defense began by dismissing Zane as a bitter, financially illiterate spouse. They told the judge his claims were nothing more than a desperate grab for corporate equity he didn't earn. Zane ignored the insults and went straight to the ledger. He stated for the record the existence of a $47 million undisclosed asset known as the Larkspur Trust. He supported the claim with a single wire transfer confirmation, proving $47 million had been moved into that exact trust. The defense pivoted to damage control, calling the company CFO to the stand. Under oath, the executive insisted that Hallow Freight's books were audited, clean, and entirely compliant with the law. Zane introduced the Black Rail Ledger. This software splits a seamless stream of financial data into two: clean records for auditors and a hidden path for leadership. This dual system siphoned millions in consulting fees into an offshore shell company called Orion Ridge Consulting. These hidden assets were a verifiable systemic accounting feature, an architecture of deception deliberately authorized by executive leadership. Desperate to stop the financial revelations, the defense submitted a sworn psychiatric affidavit from a Dr. Quill, labeling Zane as deeply paranoid and unstable. Zane countered by leveraging Georgia's one-party consent law. He introduced a small, covert audio recording he'd captured at home during the final year of their marriage. The courtroom heard Callista's own voice, admitting she had purchased the fake medical diagnosis. On tape, she detailed her plan to use the psychiatrist to discredit Zane and keep him away from the corporate records. Faced with the recording, Dr. Quill broke down on the witness stand. She confessed to providing the fraudulent diagnosis in exchange for having a crippling personal debt paid off by Callista's team. Zane then turned to the company's 401k plan. This chart compares total employee payroll deductions to the actual deposits made into their retirement accounts. The stark discrepancy reveals that the missing funds were instantly routed into a hidden offshore holding account. This evidence proved the systemic embezzlement of thousands of blue-collar workers' pensions, funds siphoned away to finance a CEO's offshore escape. Zane immediately moved for temporary control of the company's voting interests. He argued the court needed to protect the remaining assets, citing evidence that Callista was preparing to flee the jurisdiction. He then revealed a flight reservation for an international departure booked during the court's lunch recess. Callista erupted in anger, accusing Zane of hacking her private devices. In her outburst, she inadvertently confirmed that Zane's access to her data was real and the documents were entirely accurate. The judge froze the company assets and ordered Callista to surrender her passport. Federal agents then entered to arrest her for securities fraud and embezzlement. The very trap Callista built to silence her husband became the evidence that legally and criminally dismantled her entire career. Upon taking receivership of the company, Zane's first fact was to force full transparency. He immediately began restoring the stolen pension funds directly to the workers who had earned them. He also preserved the Chattahoochee Riverland his family owned for generations, the pristine landscape Callista planned to seize for commercial development. Corporate power often rests on the assumption that the vulnerable will stay silent. Zane's meticulous paper trail proves that refusing to be intimidated can dismantle the most well-funded machine.